Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're going to give folks just a couple seconds to log on and get settled before we start the program. Looks like we've got just a few more people joining, and then we'll get started. Well, thank you all for joining us this afternoon. My name is Grace Woodmansey, and I'm the Livestock and Natural Resources Advisor for Siskiyou County Cooperative Extension. I'm really happy that we have our featured speaker, Casey Rowe, joining us today. And we also have our office manager, Sam Clausen, who's helping out behind the scenes. So we welcome you to the first of two webinars that we're hosting on practical digital marketing strategies for direct-to-consumer ranchers. So this webinar is a follow-up to a series of interviews that my colleague Morgan Doran from the Sacramento area and I conducted with direct-to-consumer ranchers and local processors throughout Northern California. So one of the outcomes of that research project is that several ranchers requested more resources and support related to marketing strategies. So we're really excited to host this webinar series with a direct-to-consumer marketing consultant, which is Casey. And Casey and I met at a regional meat summit in North Carolina last summer, and I was really impressed that her expertise is very focused on digital marketing for direct-to-consumer farmers and ranchers specifically. And she's been involved in some really innovative work with North Carolina Cooperative Extension as well. So before I turn over things to Casey, I just have a few requests and reminders for everyone. So we absolutely encourage your questions, but ask that you post them using the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen, not the public chat. So the Q&A has a little question mark icon, and I will monitor those questions and share them with Casey when we have time throughout the presentation. I also ask that you just stay on mute until the end of the webinar, and we might have time for more of an open discussion once we finish Q&A. You will be directed to a post-webinar survey when you leave the Zoom meeting, and we'd really appreciate your response to that survey. It'll take just 30 seconds or so to complete and really helps us get more funding for future webinars and events. And I'll also be sending a follow-up email this afternoon with resources provided by Casey, including her slides, so look out for that. And the last reminder is that our next webinar on May 28th will have a new Zoom link. So the one you used today will not work, but I will send out the Zoom link for the next webinar on Tuesday, May 27th, and we hope that you'll join us for that final webinar on May 28th. Casey's going to do a deeper dive into a topic that you all select today at the end of her presentation. So with that, I think I'll turn things over to you, Casey. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much, Grace. I'm really excited to be here with you all. And I'll just dive right in. As Grace said, I'm a food marketing specialist and I have my own consulting company, Casey Rowe Marketing. I'm based actually in North Carolina, which is where Grace and I met. And my background, I started out in sustainability communications at Duke University. While I was there, the students were getting really interested in local food. And so that kind of spiraled into eventually starting a farm there and then leaving and managing my own diversified small vegetable farm. And we had laying hens as well. And through that, I was in charge of all the sales and marketing, both wholesale and retail. We had a really vibrant CSA program and relationships in the community and carried a lot of other local products like local meats from other farms. So I built a lot of relationships that way, which took me into, since 2019, consulting directly with farmers and ranchers, restaurants, and food businesses. And one of the kind of overlaps with the work here today and what has really kind of ingrained me in the community of meat farmers and ranchers specifically is a platform that I work with through NC State and Cornell University called Meat Suite. Unfortunately, the platform's only available right now in New York and North Carolina, but it's a meat farmer directory where farmers and ranchers can list their bulk meat products. And so through that work, I get to see hundreds of farms, meat farms websites and social media accounts. And so I'm always getting kind of a bird's eye view of the trends within local meat marketing and seeing kind of what's going right and kind of some areas of opportunity where maybe, um, farms or ranches aren't necessarily leading with all the information that would be helpful to consumers. So I kind of get to see it all, and that gives me a good platform for being able to help individual farmers and ranchers, and also something like today where we get to talk about best practices and some of the opportunities that are available to you all. And then, as Grace mentioned, I get to again participate in some of these larger regional meat education. We met at the Carolina Meat Conference hosted by NC State. So, getting to see kind of what is on the cutting edge and what peer um, folks who are raising meat are taking part in. So that's me, but diving into today, I wanted to start, of course, with the big picture. So, why does digital marketing matter for ranchers? We're going to dig into specific tools to grow your meat business online, talk about streamlining your marketing for limited time and budget, and then wrap up with some shortcuts and resources and the poll. I will be able to dive deeper into some of these topics in our follow-up webinar, and we're going to get your feedback on which ones of those you are most interested in knowing more about. So hopefully rest assured that if there's something you really wanted to hear a lot more of, you will have some say in which one of those we jump into next time as well. And continuing on, so the big picture, why does digital marketing matter for ranchers? First of all, many of you know, today's customers are searching online. They want clarity, flexibility, they want ease of a shopping experience, and digital tools can help you deliver that to these potential customers. They also want to know your story, who raised their meat and how. And tools like your website, your email marketing, your social media, that's where you get to tell your story and build that trust, as well as, of course, those ever important in-person interactions when you show up for a delivery or you are at the farmer's market talking with them face to face. There's nothing that can replace that type of interaction. But we're doing a lot more of that now through text, through phone calls, through email. And to sell smarter, not harder. And this one really is for you because some of these tools can save you a lot of time. For instance, subscriptions, which can regenerate orders without you having to go out and find a new customer for every sale, or automated order reminders that let folks know an order deadline's coming up in their area. So that even if you didn't have time to send a marketing email that week, they still heard from you and they still had that reminder to go ahead and shop with you. And I wanted to give one example, which is a farm that I work with in North Carolina called Cathis Farm. My client there was very burnt out from all of his time at the farmer's market, traveling to and from 3 different markets. And they also wanted their weekend back for their kids' sports. One of their kids was starting to participate in track. And so they had these weekend track meets, and they had the conflict of farmers markets or getting to be there for their kids' sports. So a little under 2 years ago, I helped him set up an e-commerce store. And since then, we've consistently been working together using the digital marketing tools that I'll talk about today to reach customers online. And so, about 2 years in now, this is the first year that he won't need to go to any in-person markets, which was a goal of his. And that's because the online sales have been able to fully replace that income and grow beyond it. And our next step together is going to be transitioning from local delivery to shipping because, of course, each fulfillment method has its challenges. Now he's spending a lot of time on the road 1 day a week doing local deliveries, and he would love to be able to replace that with a shipping option. So that's kind of the next frontier. But depending on what your goals are, these digital tools can actually help make this fit into your lifestyle as well. So that's just something I wanted to share as kind of an example of where the digital marketing tools and efforts can take you. So branding and messaging, of course, this is really at the heart of communicating with customers. Um, and knowing your customer is important. And you probably already know your customer better than anyone else if you've been doing this for a little while. Um, though, like I said, those kind of in-person interactions, if you have been at farmers markets, for instance, you probably have learned the most there about what are your customers looking for in those conversations. So are they health conscious? Are they ethical eaters who care most about the animal welfare? Busy families who maybe want some ready to eat options? Are they preppers who want a full freezer of meat waiting for them? Are they foodies who want to try the latest cut or are really particularly concerned with the flavor of a particular meal that they're going to make? And throughout the presentation, I've pointed out some AI opportunities, and people might have really mixed feelings about that. I know that I do as well. But I have found that for my clients, it does help me save time and get more done from them, with the limited hourly time that they have with me. So I'm in favor of kind of using AI tools for that creative iterating. I'll point out some ways throughout this that I would recommend using it. It can also be great for data analysis. So, not to replace your voice at all, just to help you with some of your research, with some of your data, and with some of the, getting the creative juices flowing when you have that limited time to sit down on the computer and put some message out there. It can be really helpful. And I say it's an opportunity here because AI could help you iterate on who your target customers are. And it could help you with some analysis because you could actually plug in all the reviews that you already have from Facebook, from Google, put those into AI and ask it to analyze those reviews for you. What do people say that is most positive about your business? What is most negative? What products do they mention most often? And that can help you understand your customer. You could even do that for a competitor or, a peer farmer ranch. Like this is who I would really like. This is the type of customers I'd really like to be attracting. So let's go ahead and analyze what they're saying about other products that might apply to mine as well. If you don't have your own reviews to draw on, for instance. And you'll have to excuse me if I cough. I'm just at a tail end of a cold, so please bear with me, and I'll try to mute if I have to cough too much. Um, and telling your story, we mentioned that already, but telling your story across all of your channels and being consistent in that about what your business name is. I even see a lot of unfortunate variation between like Facebook, Instagram, and a website in what the business is called, or maybe one has LLC, which isn't really something you need to include in your marketing. That's kind of your, registered business name, but it's not your brand necessarily. So be consistent with your farm's name, tagline, your logos across all those different platforms where you appear. Leading with value. So instead of just saying the name of your bulk offering, think about how you want to lead and describe it as a value to them. So 100+ meals of pasture-raised beef in one easy order. That would be a more compelling way to talk about your product potentially. And then connection over perfection. I find this especially on social media or in your email marketing. Everything doesn't have to be super polished. It should just be genuine about you and about your farm. So don't let, not having the perfect cuts on a video or something like that prevent you from just getting started and showing genuinely what's happening on your farm or writing genuinely about what's happening on your farm. So if you only sell in bulk, you might be thinking, why do I need a website? And the answers are actually really simple. So customers can find you, they can trust you, contact you, learn about your ranch, browse your products, and then ultimately make a deposit or make a purchase online. And even if they don't make, I should say, even if they don't make a purchase online, make a purchase by calling you or texting you or emailing you. Um, all of those could be ever important too, or even just finding where they can find you at the farmer's market, for instance. Um, I want to talk about trends in consumer-friendly meats and buying habits. Again, these are things that I've observed mostly in my world here in North Carolina, but also beyond with other clients that I interact with as well. And seeing online what farms and ranches are offering, as well as some of the big businesses out there that are offering these products to consumers. They may not be local meat necessarily; they're shipping nationwide. So that's what we want to keep an eye on is what customers are looking for. One is flexible subscriptions. This could be a farmer's choice type box, but it could also be something where the consumer actually builds the basket of items and then subscribes to that. And these are really valuable as a rancher because it's even, to me, it's even worth giving a discount or a free item with each order to a subscriber because of the convenience and the value of these repeat orders coming in for you, whether it's on a weekly, every other week, or monthly basis. It's so much more work and money invested to find new customers than to retain the ones that you have. Doorstep delivery, of course, we know like it or not, consumers are really used to being able to buy something online and having it arrive at their door. So this might not be for everyone, but if it is something to investigate, even perhaps if it's not doing the deliveries yourself, but some other way of hiring someone or working with a partner company that can make this possible for your business. And of course, you have to build those costs in, which we'll talk a little bit about some of the online store tools that can help with that. Bulk bundles, pairing together high and low value items or popular and less popular items that can help you move inventory. Of course, putting fun themes on these, having a variety of sizes, that can be helpful for making sure that people meet your order minimums. And if you raise mixed species, having mixed species bundles is fun as well. I included two awesome resources on this slide. One is the Creating Consumer-Friendly Bulk Meats document that's actually created by NC Choices at NC State. They've put a lot of thought into how can you offer bulk meat in a consumer-friendly way, and I'll share a few of what they recommend here. Also, a bundle builder. So although Meat Suite is a directory only in North Carolina and New York, um, there are tools in there that are available to everyone, such as their meat price calculator that helps you set prices, and the bundle builder, which can help you take a full animal and break that down into several consumer-friendly bundles. So I wanted to make sure to mention those resources for you all. So in terms of some of the best practices for bulk, accepting electronic payments, this really brings you into the age that people are in now. They want to be able to use a credit card or a Venmo to be able to make a payment. It's also a good way to be able to take a deposit ahead of time and make sure that you've locked in that order. Providing a suggested cut sheet because so many consumers aren't familiar if you are going that traditional route for selling halves and wholes. So many producers are not familiar with the processor process or with cut sheets. And so you want to really hold their hand through this process to make it a good experience for them and something that they're interested in doing again. Don't throw them out in the wind. Help them with a suggested cut sheet. You know, this is how our family likes to request our animal to be prepared and coordinate with the processor. So you are the middleman between the processor and them or woman. They don't have to deal with the processor themselves. That would be definitely a best practice. And simplified pricing. If you're going to go this per pound, per pound way, using the dollars per pound HCW and including the basic processing costs in that. So you might say we recommend on Meat Suite, you can say additional costs for particular sausage or something like that. But the basic processing should be built in there. So there's not so many different elements of the pricing that the consumer has to wrap their head around. And letting them know the take-home weight range and the estimated final cost as much as you're able to estimate it. So there aren't any surprises, and they're more interested up front because they know what they're going to be getting in the end and how far their money will take them. I also like to provide information about freezer space, how many portion servings can they expect estimated so that they can figure out how long will this actually last for their family. So as many of those FAQ type information as you can include, the better to educate your customer. And then for an optimal customer experience, offering split sides, providing a list of expected cuts with estimated weights, and this is more recommended, I'd say, for folks who have a lot of experience, but even a fixed weight quarter, half, or whole. That's the most consumer friendly way to go. You know, it's this price for a half cow, but maybe not everyone feels comfortable doing that because of the variability in weights of animals. But it is one option that I've seen from some farms and ranches. So before we move on, I want to check the fundamentals of your customer experience because you can have the best marketing in the world, but if you don't have these fundamentals, you will still be missing out on potential sales. And this is from my personal experience because working with the Meat Suite program, I often need to purchase local meat for the prize winners of our giveaways. So I'll find a few farms that I'm interested in working with, and I will search for them online. And I often have to dig to figure out where is this farm located? What products do they sell? How can I actually make a purchase? Even though I'm basically the most determined buyer, getting to the point of completing a purchase can be really frustrating. I won't hear back for days, or I won't get the invoice that I was promised, or they don't have many of the products listed, or in some cases, the farm is in the directory, but they have actually closed and not removed that listing. Um, so this is kind of a cautionary tale just to look to not kind of zone out from these questions and these check marks, but to actually check it yourself and even ask a couple of friends or family to check on this with fresh eyes for you too. Um, and this will also be included in the handout that I'm going to have for you. It's basically like a checking the fundamentals before you get started. But it's all about making sure your location is well displayed, your profiles clearly state what you offer. Have you claimed your Google business profile? We're going to talk a little bit more about how you can use that later on. But these are kind of the fundamentals of making sure that the customer can find you and can find the information that they need. Providing clear instructions on how to buy from you, especially if they don't have an online store. Is it easy to contact you? And then a big one, checking your communications daily and responding within 24 hours. If you list your phone, expect you're probably going to get calls and texts and email. So this is just really important because people do expect to hear back, and there are other options out there, and so they will move on if they don't hear back from you. And on the cautionary tale front, we did a survey recently with our meat directory of customers' experience using it. And one of them said, you know, I emailed 4 or 5 listed sellers before I got even one response. That's somewhat been my experience as well. So just making sure that when you're putting your contact info out there, which is important to do, you are checking those channels regularly and getting back to people. And I know that's really hard when you have so many things on your plate that immediately need to get done in a day. But you don't want to miss out on those sales opportunities, especially because, you know, I imagine because you're here, you're very interested in marketing and reaching new customers. And so don't put that work in and then miss out on them at this last crucial mark. And then when you do have these opportunities, this is an example. So someone had inquired, do you have a quarter cow available or a half cow available? And this was the full response from a farmer. So to me, this is a missed opportunity because they haven't thanked the person, you know, thank you so much for your interest in our pasture raised meat. They haven't let them know when would this be available? How can they pay? How can they indicate that they want to place the order? You know, do they need to have a deposit? A lot of information is missing. So this would be an example, and I won't go through all of it, but you'll have these slides where this has kind of included everything you might possibly want to say. Maybe you don't need to say everything in this, but this level of detail and also of kind of interest and excitement to hear from the customer and just that customer service element of thank you so much for your interest is going to help you close that sale and also avoid a lot of back and forth or confusion about what the product is, when they can get it. You know, save yourself time, have a template that you rely on to give people the information that they need. And the more of this that is already on your website, the less work for you because you can just direct them to your website instead of putting this in email. Excuse me. Okay, so here, before the next thing that we're going to dive into is the particular online tools that you can use to grow your meat business. But I wanted to just pause for a moment. So if there are any questions at this point, I'd be happy to answer a couple of those before we move on.
Yeah, I have a few questions for you, Casey. So the first is a lot of ranchers are shipping individual cuts only. Is there a place for individual cuts, or are you recommending only using bundles?
Definitely a place for individual cuts. Yeah, I'm in favor of both. And like I said, in terms of bundles, even letting people build their own bundle and subscribe to it, I would say is really the gold standard. So that would be pretty much a format where you're offering individual retail cuts, but people can build a shopping cart or a basket full of those and then subscribe to it. And they can even swap out something if they see something different they want to put into their monthly order, they have the ability to just adjust that order on their own. That's amazing. But also having those available individual cuts where people can just place a one-off order is great as well. So I think maybe I knew that some of the folks on here were most interested in doing shares or halves and wholes. So I definitely wanted to tailor some information to that. But I think retail cuts is great. And for both of those ways of selling, all of these tools still apply.
Great, thank you. Another question in our Q&A. What is your opinion on a membership versus a subscription service?
Good question. Yeah. Um, I don't have as much experience with membership in the meat world, I'd say in particular. I feel like I see a lot of that with the CSA model in terms of vegetable farms and a lot of the upfront subscription. I know that does happen in both worlds. And I think it could be a good tool, especially if you have I'm thinking of one farm in North Carolina where it is more of that membership model, and they have people sign up ahead of time and one of the for a certain amount of weeks or months of the year, so it's more of a share in that way. And one of the enticing things they have is that they do it when it's a limited um, product, for instance. So if they have eggs, like an egg add-on, you would have to be a member to access eggs because they're going to have a limited number of those. So it's like a limited number of egg share add-ons. And the incentive is, we have a limited amount of this, so become a member and you'll make sure that your family is in on our egg supply. Um, so I think a membership can be good. Sometimes maybe it could lack the flexibility where some customers want to be able to pause, skip, um, or they just accumulate. I've heard, of with folks where they accumulate, they pay for an annual subscription, but then they accumulate too much in their freezer. So they feel like, we have too much coming and there's not a way to like pause this. So maybe membership could be great as long as you build in a little bit of those flexible options, like what does someone do when they're out of town? What does someone do when they have too much and they just need to to skip or pause? Um, Both can be great. If you are able to get members, obviously having that guaranteed income is nice. With the flexible subscription, you have the possibility that someone is able to just cancel, and that's a lost customer. But at the same time, you want to make sure you keep your customers happy, and so they do like that flexibility as well.
That makes sense. Thank you. And I'll share one more question before we continue on, but just a reminder to everyone that if you do have questions as we're going throughout the presentation, please feel free to post them using the Q&A feature and we'll get to them at the next break. So last question for now, Casey. Do you recommend a tab on your website that says how to buy from us? Does it need to be that clear?
Great question. I definitely see some of this. I don't know that that is necessary. My preference overall is really keep the tabs simple because every tab is a distraction from the part where they can just buy from you. So I would make the store the most visible. I think, and I do have an example coming up, which I can even just jump to right here. This is the Gray's Cart platform. This is the main store page for this farm. And it has this little explainer here about how to buy. So you can have this on your homepage or something similar. Um, and it's in the store. It doesn't have to be redirecting someone to a whole page about how to buy. Hopefully, you have a system built into your store where it's pretty self-explanatory, as in, they've already chosen their delivery method by the time they are at their checkout page. You could certainly have some explainer information, but it might not need to be a whole tab. It could be a little bit of an explainer built in on the homepage, on the store page. If you have a more complex situation or you're not actually selling online, that might be where you want to have like a where to find us page. And that would explain, okay, we're at these farmers markets and we have our farm stand here where you can shop with us in person. I would try generally to integrate the process into the shopping experience would be my overall advice, and just keep those tabs really simple. You can always have more information in your footer, and you can have kind of drop down type tabs where the less important information or less urgent can be kind of collated together, and keeping that shop option for the store the most prominent way. Just get people into that buying process. Okay, so I will go ahead and dive back in. Here we're going to really get into some of the online tools, and keep in mind if you feel like one of these is too surface level and you really wanted to hear more detail, the opportunity at the end with the poll is where you can indicate this is something I would really like to get into more kind of advanced content for this topic. Um, so first, we're going to continue on this topic of online stores, and we'll start with the customer perspective. What makes a great online store? Fast loading, it's mobile friendly, mobile and desktop. A lot of times, if you are able to look at the analytics for your site, you'll see that more people are actually coming on their phones than on desktop. So you have to make sure that everything functions properly when they're navigating on a phone. And again, that they can easily get to the shopping portion of your site. Um, an easy checkout process. There's a lot of different variations, and we could get into that further if we focus more on online store, but about, when do they create the account or when do they enter their zip code? There's different ways of setting that up. But overall, you want the checkout to be easy and to be trustworthy, something that they recognize and they feel comfortable putting their information into. Clear fulfillment info. When and how will I get my meat? Simple explanations. We mentioned like what cuts are in a quarter cow, how much freezer space do I need? Make it easy to browse. And I put some of the ways you could have people interested in browsing here. Trust building details, photos, farm practices, FAQs, and super important reviews. If you can integrate reviews into your online store, at least on your homepage, having some overall reviews, but if you even have on the product level reviews, that's an excellent way to get people to trust the quality of your product. Clear pricing, even if it's estimated. Again, that's one where people have kind of gateways at different points in the process. Um, but give people are going to turn away if they don't know, what they can expect to pay. So give people at least a range that they can compare with other farms and ranches that they might be looking at. And we talked about subscription already. So I just wanted to show this as an example. There's, I would say, a thousand ways to set up a great online store. This is just one, and I have been impressed with the Grace Cart platform that I've worked with a few clients for this platform specifically, just because I like here, what I want to show is the clear categories. It lets you know how to shop. You have the opportunity for nice visuals. It's fast loading. So all those are really important for the process, but there are so many different ways that you could display your products. This is just diving a little deeper into a bundles category, and showing off, a few of the ways that you can present your meats into bundles with clear pricing, with an easy shopping experience, and up top, some of the categories like bones, whole animal, so people can dig deeper into something that they might be interested, or great price to show off some of the more economical cuts. Now, what makes a great store from the rancher perspective? With meat, we have the particular um, challenge or opportunity where some people want to be able to reconcile final weights when they pack the order. So something that can allow you to do that. Easy order management on the back end, ability to integrate into tools for shipping, for delivery, customer communication tools. A key one would be those automated order reminders. Some platforms have that for you, some may not. Um, where you can also communicate updates, obviously receipts, invoices for the customer. Detailed reporting tools are very helpful, so you can learn from your own data. There are probably other ways if that's lacking in a platform that you can export and do some more digging on your own. Um, and that it works with your workflow, so everyone has different needs. Like if you go to the farmer's market and you need your point of sale to have a shared inventory with your online store, that would be a big consideration in what platform you choose. Are pre-orders possible? For some folks, it might be important. Okay, I want a bundle of individual cuts, but I want that inventory to be tied together. So when I sell a bundle, it subtracts from those individual cuts. Again, some platforms can do that, others might not. So you have to think about all the parts of your workflow that are specific to your business and evaluate the platforms ahead of time as much as possible with those because they'll all sell you on a great product, but will it work when you get into the details? Um, Price groups by different fulfillment method may or may not be important to you. With delivery, it's really helpful to be able to build some of the cost of delivery into the price of the product because if people see such a high cost at checkout for delivery, that can be a big turnoff where they just don't complete the order at that point and that it grows with your business needs. And I actually added this based on some of the pre-webinar feedback because someone mentioned that we're starting a business that's ultimately going to have many enterprises. So picking a platform that is going to grow with you. The one that came to mind for me was Shopify because that's used by a lot of giant businesses and it has kind of an app-based marketplace. So yeah, your monthly cost can go up and up, but there is basically an app for everything. So if you see a lot of, oh, our needs might really change over time with technology, you might want to go with a platform that can serve really broad needs like Shopify. This is just kind of a insert here to say analytics are really important. So make sure to the extent possible, you're integrating with your website and online store, Google Analytics, so that you can get to know your customers and view the results of your marketing efforts. And you would want to integrate Google Ads, your email marketing platform. When we talk about email, I'm going to get into that a little bit more. And Meta, if you're on Facebook or Instagram, you can attach your pixel. So as much as possible, you're putting this effort into marketing. You want to be able to find out, is this working? Is this bringing people to your site? And how are they interacting with your site when they're there? Google Business Profile. This is basically, I would say, a free essential, especially because it's free. You want to make sure you're taking advantage of this. So do you have your accurate info about your business? Have you claimed your business profile? I recommend at least monthly putting up fresh photos and videos. Other people can add that too, but you want to make sure you're putting up the best quality ones from your business. Make sure your description, and I'm going to show an example in a minute. Well done description, that you have at least a sampling of your products there, that you add updates. It's a great opportunity to advertise events and responding to reviews. I recommend doing that as they come in because that increases your trustworthiness to Google and to AI search platforms as well. And I'm not of the belief that the customer is always right. So, I'm very much into be kind, be polite, but you're also able to state the facts of the situation as well. So I don't believe you always, have to completely go along with, oh, the customer is always right. You can explain the situation politely if needed. Um, this is actually a vegetable farm, but I thought it was a good example in terms of, they've added a photo that's a good representation of that they have a farm store showing off who they are as farmers. They have really positive reviews. They have a good description that I think in the few sentences that they have summarizes what this farm is all about. So they're an organic farm and event center nestled in the rolling hills of the county that they're in, specializing in raising 100% grass-fed beef, organic chicken, GMO-free pork, shiitake mushrooms, and organic veggies. Visit our farm store. So they're really saying it all about who they are, where they are, what they offer, and how you can connect with them in just a couple of sentences. And they add regular updates as well. So that's important. And this is a farm that I work with on the coast in North Carolina. And whenever I'm doing social media or email content for them, a couple times a month, I also repurpose that content for a Google update because why not? It's just we've already created this language, we have this image or a graphic that we might have made, put it in another place, let Google know, what type of products you have. You're always educating Google by adding this info and increasing the likelihood that someone will find you. And don't forget to ask your customers for reviews because that, again, increases your trustworthiness. It's going to help you show up in search on Google and on AI. And also, when customers see these positive reviews, of course, that's going to make them more interested in shopping with you as well. Okay, next up is email marketing. So building your list and driving weekly sales. I've found email marketing can be actually the most impactful in terms of driving sales. And this is why I recommend having your online store connected with your email marketing platform so you can actually prove that to yourself and prove that the time is worthwhile that you put in. Of course, growing your list is kind of the foundation of this because the more people you can communicate with, the more your time is worthwhile in whether it's a weekly, twice a month, or even a monthly email, or just when an email is necessary, depending on how your business works. So through your website, you always want to be gathering emails through your checkout, your in-person events. If you're at the farmer's market, always be inviting people to join your list. Giveaways, which can span between social media or email. So you could advertise it on social media, but say, the winner will be chosen from our email list. So cross-pollinate between those. And a huge one would be Google Ads. Once you have your site set up to gather emails, driving traffic there from Google Ads would be a huge way to connect with more people. And once you have your list going, I would say, at least probably get up to at least 300 quality contacts before you put a ton of time into this. I mean, that's kind of give or take. If you have less than that and you have a message to share more frequently, go for it. Again, if you're connected to your store, you can see if those messages are resonating and you're getting sales. But with a client I kind of chose to focus more until she got up to at least 300 people to communicate with. We focus more on reaching people other ways, like on social media or in Facebook groups, to build that list. And then it really made sense to put more time into emails because the emails can be a little bit time consuming to build. So sending from a custom domain is key for getting into inboxes. So you want not to send from a Gmail account. For instance, you want to send from your own farm or ranch's domain. Keep your list clean. I know I just talked a lot about building your list, but another part of that is keeping it clean because if you have contacts on there who never open anything, they're just dragging down your open rate. And again, that can prevent you from getting into inboxes. So you really want those, you want to be adding all the time, but also culling the ones that ultimately aren't connecting with you. Automations beyond your website or online store, the number one thing I would probably pay someone to help with would be setting up automated emails because that's just going to continue to work for you over time without very many updates being needed. And I list some of the more important flows here. And then making your marketing emails count with strong subject lines, with resending to unopened, and using a new subject for that. So most of the platforms are set up for this now, where a day or 2 days later, you can send the same email out to the people who didn't open it yet and use a new subject line to hopefully attract their attention. So you get two chances for all that effort that you put into that email. And using a mix of buttons and links, I like to give people plenty of opportunity to click. And I put the AI opportunity tag on here because to me, this is one of the creative ways that you can kind of do your creative iterations. Let the AI know, okay, here's what my email is about. Can you help me write this little blurb? Can you help me, now that you know what's the content, help me come up with, give me 20 options that are must click header, must click subjects for my email. Maybe you don't take exactly what it says, but it gets you thinking and you come up with something that is going to get people's attention. These are just a couple little examples, but I put some subjects at the top corner here, trying to get across the message of urgency, of something new and fresh that's available in the store, or something a little bit intriguing where you have to click to find out, what's going on here. It's capturing my attention. And then just a couple little sample blurbs with, clear, easy to read headers, a photo that's really enticing, and a link, a hyperlink option, a button option, however people might want to interact, giving them plenty of ways to get to your store from the email. And why is this worthwhile? This is actually from the Drip platform, which is one of the email marketing platforms that I've been most impressed with lately. And it's just to show that, with one email, you can see demonstrated, okay, $1,000 of revenue came in from 5 orders from this email. So I wanted to just show that, when you have this connection, you can see with your own eyes that your effort at email is turning into actual sales in your store. And that will just build and build as you have more contacts to reach. Social media, what's worth your time? So you may want to, my advice would be potentially if you have limited time, focus on one or two platforms. And the ones that have the most local focus are Instagram and Facebook, particularly Facebook groups. And towards the end of the presentation, I have kind of my suggested efficient marketing flow, and that gets into a lot more of how you can little kind of tricks to use to capitalize on the tools available in Instagram and Facebook. And that's going to be in those handouts as well. So even if we don't get into the details of it, you will have all that information. So if I had to choose and I was selling locally, I would focus on Instagram and Facebook. If you are shipping nationwide, I have found it does feel easier to get views these days on YouTube and on TikTok. So you can get a lot of views, but if you're just a local business with a local market, it might not be worth as much of your energy because you're going to be reaching a worldwide audience, and that might not translate into sales that are really relevant for your business. If you can only post once a week, I would include some kind of salesy message in there. So letting people know about an exciting product that you have, or something, just a few more left of these, along with perhaps some farm message as well. And then as time allows, fill in with more farm content. Videos and stories are great for those. Show yourself, show your animals, educate about how you farm. Don't just say like, I moved the cows today, but tell us why. Why are you rotating them in that way? What's kind of the benefit? Why is this the way that you farm, and what sets it apart from other types of meat or other ways of raising animals? And tell us what's available. So maybe sometimes you're in the cooler letting us know, oh, I just filled the cooler with all of these items. So show us your product as well, not just the farm, but whether it's the product in the cooler or the product that you cooked that night, show us what we can get excited about eating. And for sales messages, just one kind of strategy that I have for clients is that I found multi-image posts work really well if you're going to do one thing that week that you can put in multiple places. Having a multi-image post that you post either from Instagram or from Meta, that can be a post on Instagram, a post on Facebook, and also a easy item to share into Facebook groups so that one piece of content can work for you in multiple places. Again, that's part of the flow that I'll show you towards the end. Google Ads, helping customers find you when they search online. That's the point of Google Ads. And the geographic targeting tools are really helpful. You can narrow in on particular zip codes that you want to reach. And you can reach a lot of people with a budget that's as low as $5 a day. You may start with a traffic campaign, but the ultimate goal is to really use this to drive purchases to your store. So you need that connection with your online store. And in terms of the results, I wanted to show one example here. This is the last 90 days for a small meat farm client where he spends $5 a day, occasionally $10 a day if we have an extra message that we want to share, like some bulk offering, like a half pig bundle that we're only pushing for a couple of months, will increase the budget. But we spent $615 and we got almost $1,900 of demonstrated sales from the ad. So that's 205% return on that investment. And not only do we get those purchases, but if you have your website set up well, you're also getting a lot more traffic to the site, many more people signing up for your emails, people adding to cart. These are all other types of things that you can be targeting for along the way. So the purchases are awesome because they show the value of the ad, that it's more than paying for itself, but you're also gathering a lot of potential customers in other ways with the ad as well. And then SEO and AI search optimization. There could be easily an entire hour and a half spent on this topic. But on the basic level, you want to create an easy to use, fast loading, mobile friendly website that has quality content, clear page structure. If you are working with someone or you're setting up your site for the first time, or you have time to go back and look at what you have set up, doing some SEO research, which I'll touch on in just a moment, and choosing your primary keyword that you want to focus on a particular page, and then some secondary keywords that you want to incorporate into your site. That's a good way to try to make sure that you appear in more searches. And backlinks. This can be as simple as joining, like if you have a local business chamber, a regional tourism group, or farm directories, join those. If they link to your site, that helps your SEO and that helps you become a more trustworthy site, both on Google, other search engines, and on AI search as well. Um, and the kind of the new frontier of AI search, a huge topic. But what matters here is really similar things as what matters on Google. So authority, trust that you have a good online reputation, that you have those reviews, that your website functions well. And one thing that you can start to think more about is the way that people will now kind of use their phone and just ask a question like, where can I buy a quarter beef near me? That's the type of question you could answer on your website in your FAQ, and AI might pull more from your site to say, here's the answer to your question. So you're basically optimizing for voice search, the type of questions that someone will be asking their phone and looking for an answer from AI. You can format some of your website, like your FAQ in particular, to try to answer those questions and be the answer that AI suggests. Okay, so keyword research, and this is the last little bit before we'll have some more questions. So in terms of keyword research, and I did some of this specifically for your region with some input from Grace about what areas would make sense to look at. To do keyword research, I recommend using the Google Ads Keyword Planner. So you have a Google Ads account, even if you're not advertising yet, you could use this tool. And look for keyword opportunities. And what that means is a phrase that has a high search volume. People are typing this into Google and searching for it, but it has low or medium competition. So the folks who are advertising, the big companies or small companies, not many of them are competing for this term. And you want to balance the search volume. So it might have a great search volume, but it actually doesn't have the purchase intent that aligns with your product. So steak near me would be an example of a key phrase. And that sounds great on the surface, but what is someone really looking for when they search steak near me? They might be looking for a raw steak to cook for dinner, but they might be looking for a steakhouse. And we want to narrow in a little bit more and think about, okay, what's someone potentially looking for? Make sure it really aligns with what your product is. And then how natural is the phrase to incorporate into your site? That idea of near me, for instance, that's a little bit harder to incorporate. It's great for an FAQ section. It doesn't really work naturally for a header on a page, for instance. So choosing ones that are actually natural that you can incorporate is a good idea as well. And when you're doing your research, you can list a bunch of keywords that you can think of. Maybe you come up with 20 that would sound natural to you for a person to type in. And you could feed that into AI and with your parameters, here's my geography, here's the species I raise, here's some of the cuts I have as an example, and let the AI come up with 500 that you can then put into the keyword planner and see what the results are. So for the research that I did, I used what Grace gave me as some areas that you all might focus on, and I kind of filled in the in-between space as well, just to get a big sample size of the region and of what people are searching. And I pulled up some examples. Now I searched like 500 different keywords. Many of them don't even have any average monthly search volume. So I pulled from the ones that do have volume and starting with the best search volume that we have. And you'll see obviously not all of these are ones I would recommend using. Something like beef is probably too vague, or lamb. Someone might be searching for photos of a lamb. So it's too broad, but I wanted to give you a sense of, what the search volume is. But then I put in green some of the ones that have low and medium competition, which is where we're interested in looking. And I put some stars near ones that would be interesting to talk about. So try tip near me. Now that to me actually does express somewhat of an interest of, okay, this person is looking for a particular meat cut. Seems like they have an intent to buy. And the search volume caught my eye because that 5,000 average monthly searches seems high in comparison to everything else we're seeing. Cow ranch. I don't know if that is or is not a way you would typically describe your business, but it has good search volume of 500 average monthly searches, increase over time with year over year changes up 900%, and low competition. So this is kind of what we're looking for. Something with good search volume and low competition, and that we can naturally build into the language on our site. Lamb for sale near me, that could definitely have potential. Mutton, again, mutton to me, now this could be goat meat or lamb meat. So there's, some distinction there of what people could be searching for, might not fit with what we have. But I do like that it has a high search volume and low competition. Even though it is just one word, typically we're looking for something a little more specific of a few words strung together. And then this is the second and last page that I'll show you, but some other ones that stood out to me, benefits of grass-fed beef. That would be really easy to incorporate into a blog post or a little section on your website. It's something that you might want to talk about anyway, and it actually has a low competition for that term. Now we're into ones here that are about 50 searches per month. That could still be worthwhile if you are, one of the top results. You're in the top 1 or 2 or 3 results, and maybe 30 of these people click on your result. That could still be a valuable amount of traffic to bring to your site, especially if you are offering a specific item that works with what they're searching for. It matches their intent. So just a few more that I'll mention. A half beef. I mentioned this one because you can see toward the top we have quarter cow with a medium search volume. Well, then I would choose half beef with a low search volume as an easier keyword to rank for compared to one that has medium competition. Apologies if I said search volume when I meant competition. Hormone-free beef, that caught my eye because on Meat Suite we actually ask farmers not to use that particular language because animals have hormones naturally. I think what people are looking for is no added hormones. But regardless of that, this is how the customer is searching. So that could be an interesting term to incorporate somewhere into the site, even if it's more of like an explanation of here's what we mean when we say hormone-free beef. And another one that caught my eye, meat delivery California. I was kind of surprised that this would only be a low competition term because it seems like something that maybe the bigger companies would try to be competing for. So perhaps a little opportunity there. And the last thing I'll say, some things like bulk lamb meat, that one had no competition data, so there wasn't enough data in Google to tell us the competition rank. That could be maybe a hidden gem if it really fits well with what you're selling and other people aren't competing for it enough that they have data. That could mean that it's a good opportunity. So those are the type of things I'm thinking about when I do keyword research. And with that, I'm going to take a pause and see what questions have come in. I think we have about half an hour more. I have, let's see, maybe 5 or 6 more slides. Some of them are things that are in the handout, so we could skip over that and just go to the closing stuff. So we have more time for discussion, or I can kind of go over a couple elements from the handout. I'll take questions from Grace, and then maybe Grace, if you want to weigh in on what you think would be best for time.
Yeah, no problem. And I do just want to mention to everyone that this is a broad overview of all these different topics that Casey has expertise in. But at the end of the webinar, you'll be able to select which topics you would like to do a deeper dive into next time. So if you do want more information about how to deal with Google Ads or the keyword planner or analytics, we can spend a lot of time talking about those skills in person next time. So just make sure that you cast your vote. One question for you, Casey. Do you think sales and discounts are helpful, or do they make products seem less desirable to the customer?
Great question. Yeah, I have one client I work with where he's like, I don't want to do any sales. He feels like it kind of cheapens the product, which isn't my general viewpoint, or it isn't kind of for my marketing background, it isn't the most natural thing to me. Um, I will say I've noticed, like with bundles, for instance, even if you do not apply any discount to the bundle, people will still go for the bundle. You don't have to explicitly say you are or aren't discounting it at all, but people like the convenience of this neatly packaged bundle that's around $100 with a variety of cuts. So no one even asks, does this have a discount on it? So there's definitely ways to present the meat without giving a discount. You could reserve discounts just for subscribers. That's what I'm doing with this one client, for instance. We have a 5% discount, and he puts a free item into the order of subscribers. That's like a farmer's choice item, something he has a lot of in the cooler. So if you are going to discount and you want to only do that very rarely, make sure it's for the highest incentive things like a subscription. But I'm not opposed, and I don't think it cheapens the meat to have other types of discounts. I think it's something people are used to seeing. I think it's motivating. If it's for a limited time only, for instance, I definitely like giving a coupon as part of a welcome flow. So 10% off your first order, just to get people incentivized to make that first purchase. Um, and having, if in your online store, you can show that something's a sale price. So, this was 15 crossed out, now it's 13 or 12. That's definitely a motivating factor. The bigger companies are definitely offering sales. They're showing how much something is off. And so I'm not at all opposed to using those same marketing strategies for a small farm as well. It would be my inclination to use those. Um, but if you decide not to, there are still other ways that you can kind of incentivize bigger purchases. I would definitely still recommend the bundling just because it doesn't seem to necessarily matter if you've discounted it or not.
Thank you. And then we have two questions that are kind of related to getting started. So the first is related to figuring out which platform to use and what might be the right fit for your kind of business model and scale. Do you know of a list of different platforms that direct-to-consumer producers might consider?
That's a good question. I don't know of a list specifically. It does, to me, it seems like a good opportunity to talk with peers, or if you guys have a particular peer group, whether it's like a Facebook group or a listserv, local listserv where ranchers can communicate. I would tend to kind of get advice there of what's working with people or not. I know here locally we have some listservs like that where farmers get to talk with each other for advice. Do you have any recommendation, Grace?
I think it's a good idea to talk to people that have used different platforms for sure. And that's something that we might be able to, at least in Siskiyou County, our colleagues at the Economic Development Council have a lot of business planning resources for ranchers and farmers specifically. So they might have something. If anyone's interested in that, you can email me and I'll try to connect you to the EDC. The other question connected to that, someone was asking about marketing companies in California specifically that can help people get started. My 2 cents on that is that the Economic Development Council in Siskiyou, if you're in this area, would be able to connect you to people that could help. Casey, do you have any colleagues that are in California?
I don't know specifically of a colleague in California. One of the resources I was going to mention at the end, and I'll just go to that slide, is SCORE. And I'm not sure exactly what you have for chapters near you, but I have found SCORE, they have a lot of funding, I think, from the Small Business Administration, and they have excellent free marketing webinars. That's how I've gotten connected with them, but also business advice. Like for my business, they were able to help advise me what type of insurance I should have. So you can get that one-on-one advice. I suspect they might also be connected in their area with some of the local marketing professionals. There's another website called Alignable that some of you may be familiar with, which is basically like a peer recommending of different businesses. So you join and you kind of like connect with other businesses that way. And then one more that's an international resource, but I find it really helpful, is called Creative Mornings. And they also have chapters, I believe, across the world. And it's a lot of creative professionals. So you'll definitely find like graphic designers, web designers, and marketing professionals. And they, at least in the chapter I'm in, they're able to list their profiles and what services they offer. So if there's a chapter like that near you, that could be a good option too.
Cool. Thank you, Casey. And we'll include all of these different links in the follow-up email.
Thank you.
So I have asked that folks just raise their hand and I can unmute people as they have questions. We don't have any takers yet, so maybe you can finish with the rest of your slides and we can see what else people want to chat about before closing out today.
Sounds great. Okay, so my last little portion here, I want to walk through an efficient online marketing flow. And like I said, this does have direct tie-in with these checklists that you're going to get afterwards, both a setup checklist and a weekly and monthly to-do checklist. So that's one part of this. And then just talk about high impact areas for professional help, and wrap up with maybe just one more shortcut that I haven't already mentioned. And I wanted to just put in here, we asked for a little bit of feedback from some ranchers ahead of time, and one of the peer ranchers said, it's okay if you don't have everything planned out, just start with what you can do consistently. And I think that's great advice. I've tried to make this little resource guide very granular. Even if you don't do all of it, it does have some kind of particular granular things that can be helpful and maximize your impact when you do have time to put towards marketing. I feel like with social media in particular, it's hard to know if you're connecting with people and if it's actually resulting in sales. But some of these little tips and tricks have actually helped me help give me a visual on ways that you can actually see that people are interacting with your content and even showing up as sales eventually too. So this is kind of my weekly recommendation, a pretty pared down, but for time limited and efficient use to put your marketing time to result in actual sales. So what I recommend is starting, okay, this is my high priority topic. Beef is back in stock, or a certain cut, our steaks are back in stock. So that's my topic for the week. I'm going to write a couple of marketing sentences. You could use AI to help you with that. And I'm going to create some video, and I need some video content or some photo content to go along with that. And then take it down two paths basically. So post it on Instagram and Facebook, and there you want to reshare to any relevant local Facebook groups. This is such a key opportunity, I think, to find the foodie, county, geography-based Facebook groups that are near you, or they could be like around the pandemic, beginning of the pandemic, a lot of groups popped up that were like support small businesses or support local farms. Make sure that you've found all those Facebook groups near you, the ones that allow you to post as a business, and multiply the impact of your content by resharing it into those groups. Also using just the small feature, but very helpful, where you can followers in the comment on your own Facebook post. And that, for folks who log in to Facebook who follow you, they will get a little alert that you posted. So you can really increase how many people see your Facebook post by using that. Don't overdo it, maybe once a week. You don't want to feel like you're spamming people. But if you have your kind of priority message for the week, this is the one to use it on. And then when someone interacts with you, make sure you interact back by liking and responding to all the comments. Invite anyone who likes your post to follow your page. So when you click on on the little, you have, let's say, 5 likes on this post, click on that and it will let you invite those people to follow your page. I always do that every time. Make sure that all those people get an invitation to follow. And that's one of the ways you can see that the names that those you can see then when those people do like your page, you'll get that alert. And then I find that when I'm doing that, sharing it into Facebook groups as well, some of those people who commented on that post or liked that post, I'll see those same names in orders. So that's how I know that it's actually working. Like someone found me in this Facebook group and then they placed an order that week. Whether it's for the product you promoted or not, they found you that way. So that's really reassuring to know that this is actually working. I even find that easier sometimes on Facebook than on Instagram. But on Instagram, resharing your post to your stories with an order link, with a button that links to that item on your site or to your store, because kind of the downside of the Instagram videos and posts is that it's not very easy to click and buy from them. But stories is the way that you can do that. And then in whichever order you do this, you've done all that part on social and use that same content for your marketing email. So you can start with the marketing email if you're more comfortable and then take those blurbs over to social or the other way around. But those are the two high priority things I would focus on. Um, and oh, and one little more note, when you're on Facebook, this is kind of like the customer service part of things, but I like to really turn on the charm. So it's like, well, we're so appreciative of customers like you, or thanks so much for your interest. We have all the info here. Just don't be curt, be really overly warm and friendly to try to start building that customer relationship. Um, and this would be the monthly task. So on a monthly basis, take some of that content that you're already creating and repurpose it on your Google Business profile, whether it's posting an update, an event, post a couple of recent photos, and of course, responding to reviews. And then I would recommend on an ongoing basis having a paid Google ad, and that would be something we'll talk about in a second, but one of the high priority areas to potentially get professional help. So these, I would say, are high impact areas for professional help. Your website and online store, getting that initial setup at least. Your email automations and marketing emails, that would be, as I said, email automations in particular. I feel like that pays dividends over time. Your Google Ads and your SEO. And like I said, the Google Ads budget can be pretty small. You need to pay up front for someone to get your setup well organized, but then having them build you a couple campaigns that you can turn on and off over time, that part can be pretty simple on your end, adjusting the budget, turning them on and off, making small changes. You might just need someone up front to really get that setup going for you, or you might need, to continue to pay them, hopefully on an hourly basis, maybe an hour or two a month to monitor everything for you. And someone asked specifically ahead of time for rates. This can be so variable, I think, but I tried to combine what I work with some other things that I've seen of people available and give some ideas. Of course, this really depends on the person, on the area, and on the in-depth, how much are you asking for? Are you asking for one email newsletter a month or for one post a week or several posts or videos a week? So there can be a big range here. And then we already mentioned these resources, except maybe one that I had missed. Oops, going backwards is if you maybe I've been mentioning photos a lot, and if you don't have your own good quality photos, a great resource that I've found is Canva Pro. It's only $120 a year, relatively low cost for this, and there's a ton of quality meat and recipe stock photos. They have sprinkled a lot of AI ones in, so just make sure what you're looking at actually looks realistic and quality before you use it. But I do find that you can, as far as these like weekly posts, you can get some great content from Canva that doesn't require you to have photographed every single cut you have in a beautiful way. Just a shortcut that can be really helpful. And that's all in terms of content. So, questions, discussion. I know we have a poll as well, and I'll turn it over to Grace to kind of facilitate that.
Yeah, thanks, Casey. So Sam, would you mind launching the poll? And this will be everyone's opportunity to um, vote for what you want to hear about next. So we'll take just a couple minutes for people to get their responses in. And we don't have any questions at the moment. So if there aren't any soon, we can just go ahead and close out a little bit early today. It looks like 5 people, 6 people have participated. We'll give everyone a chance just to submit their responses. Okay, I think we'll end it there. If you feel like your internet is glitchy and your poll didn't get counted, feel free to email me and I'll add in your response and share it with Casey. But it looks like SEO for meat sales is a top contender. I'm going to go ahead and share the results.
Awesome. This is really cool. Yeah, I see SEO, social media strategy, and then maybe a toss-up between paid advertising and brand and messaging. So we'll have to talk through what makes the most sense to do. But thank you guys so much for that feedback. Of course, all these topics, there's a lot more that we can dive in. We're kind of just scratching the surface, but I wanted to frame this so that we would have the chance for what you guys are most curious about to get into a little more advanced content next time.
So we don't have any folks with questions, so I think we'll just end it here. So thank you so much, Casey, for sharing all of this great information with us. I did post my email in the chat if anyone has any questions before our next poll. And I'll just remind you of a couple things. So when you log off, you'll be directed to a survey. We'd really appreciate it if you just take 30 seconds to fill it out. And then remember that you will get a new Zoom link for our webinar on the 28th. I'll send that out on Tuesday, May 27th. So look out for that. And then I will also be sending you a follow-up email with all the resources that Casey mentioned from today, including her slides. Okay, we're good. So I think that's it for today, everyone. We hope we'll see you on the 28th. Thank you again for joining us. And thank you, Casey and Sam, for your help. And we'll look forward to seeing everyone in a few weeks. Thank you.
Thank you.